Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear sisters. My name is Salma. Welcome back to my channel. Here we talk about all things related to building healthy Muslim families, raising children, teaching them Islam, supporting them on their Quran journey, all these kind of topics. So today I want to talk about why so many women struggle with motherhood, why so many women are reluctant to become mothers, and why so many women that are mothers are feeling unsupported, right? And so there are a couple of factors here, that I want to address just based on my experience as a mom of 6 children and somebody who's been in the parenting space the last 25 years. Things have definitely changed, and so I just kind of want to address the current issues mothers might be facing, okay? I think the biggest issue moms are facing nowadays that they're just feeling undervalued, that they're just feeling invisible, that they're just feeling not appreciated, right? Everybody talks about the value of motherhood in Islam, right? But generally, day to day, I think most moms feel very, very invisible. And I think it's all taken for granted, right? Like motherhood is just one of those things, like, that we just take for granted. Oh, yeah, she's just going to get married. She's just going to have kids. She's going to be a mom. And it's just, nobody is preparing you for it. There's no school, there's no courses, there is no community. There is, it's just one of those things that happen, right? And it's just kind of assumed. A lot of it's assumed. And there are a lot of unsaid expectations. And so even when you're here on this channel, I think what brought you here probably is, the desire to be a better mom, right? Like I see the videos that I've done, how to be a good Muslim mom. Those are the ones that get the most views, right? Because I think, everybody wants to do better. But I don't want to add more to your plate, right? This is why I have a hard time coming on here sometimes, because, I don't want to add more expectations to you. Oh, this is what needs to happen, right? If anything, I want to take things off your plate, right? I want to help you establish self-care and boundaries and, get clear on your vision, what's important and what's not, so you can communicate with those around you, what motherhood means to you, right? And so I think the biggest problem is those unsaid expectations, right? Like, what's expected from the mothers, and then the society just kind of fuels that, right? And this is why so many mothers feel invisible. I've seen it here in the comments, sisters are saying, oh, I feel seen, you're articulating my struggles. I think so many of women suffer in silence, right? And so what kind of expectations are we talking about here? Back in the day, and I mentioned this in previous videos, if you kept your child alive, meaning, you fed them, you provided a roof over their heads, you were a great mom. Like this was the standard, right? But nowadays, just scroll through Instagram, just look at the home organization videos, just look at the Pinterest pages, just look at the crafts, just look at the healthy food that needs to happen, just look at the scheduling, just look at the sports and the activities that need to happen. Even in the homeschool space, look at the perfect homeschooling rooms. Then in the Muslim space, look at the moms that are teaching the kids their deen, all these kind of things. So there's just more and more and more, like you're supposed to do all these kind of things. And then, that it goes back to our mothers didn't have to do that, right? Our grandmothers didn't have to do that. So what happened? Where's the shift, right? So I think we've just added more and more. So if it was enough to be a mom back whenever, now we're supposed to be educated. Now we're supposed to be teaching them the deen. Now we're supposed to be looking good in the process. Now we're supposed to have organized homes. Now we're supposed to cook healthy meals. Now we're supposed to teach them educational things, help them emotionally regulate themselves, right? All these kind of things, where probably, back in the day, moms could just let the kids play outside while they cleaned up their home, and that was it, right? So the expectations have changed, and a lot of them are still unsaid, because when those new expectations got added, right? Okay, yes, help your child with their tantrum and, be emotionally present for them. The old expectations on having a home-cooked meal and a clean house didn't get dropped, right? And I think that's the part we have to be very clear about, right? That mental load has increased, but the physical load has not decreased, right? And so a lot of stuff has been added to the plate, but not enough has been removed off the plate, right? And this is why so many mothers are struggling. In the Muslim space, there's this expectation of, mothers being educated, mothers pursuing degrees, being, well versed in the secular parts of their lives, which is important, right? But also at the same time pursuing religious studies and being, doing the Quran and all this kind of stuff, which is again important. So all these things have kind of been added, but then how do we make it happen? This has been my struggle the last 25 years, right? That I've been a mom. I have very high standards. I want to be high achieving, but like, how do I make it all happen? What's going on here? How can I thrive and not just survive, and why am I struggling, and then I think this is why so many mothers have a hard time articulating what's the problem, right? Because nobody's really having this conversation. And then when you say you're struggling, it's kind of, there's this assumption that you don't want to be a mom, right? And this is a very noble thing, like, to want to be a mom. But then if you end up having a big family, so when you say you're having a bad day, it's just kind of almost like, well, you're not grateful enough for it, or you don't know how to manage well, or it's your personal failing, right? And so it's a bit more complicated than that, right? And so there's, so like, as you can kind of see, this kind of conversation, I'm just kind of bringing it out here because those are the kind of situations I've been facing, right? Feeling overwhelmed, but not being able to quite put your finger on it, right? Like, why am I feeling so overwhelmed? What is so hard here? And this is because the load is just heavy, right? And so the load of the physical expectations, being there, being up at night, being pregnant, like, as we've seen in the video that I've done about pregnancy, so many moms could relate about just being physically tired, right? So being the physical part, the emotional part of being there for your child, how to be a good mom, how to listen to them, the video I've done about patience, right? How to not lose it, how to stay calm, right? The religious part about teaching them the Quran, about being present, what to do when they're not praying, right? Like, you see the pattern, like those are the videos we've done in the last couple weeks. So this is a lot of stuff going on here, right? And most people are not having the valued position of a mom. There's a lot of moms that still have to go to work. There's still moms that still have to financially provide for their family, or they're living in less than ideal circumstances, right? And so the position of motherhood is not valued at all, right? And so there's even extra pressure. Maybe women are told, well, my mom managed back in the village, or my mom did this or that. They're being compared to the previous generations, and they can't quite put their finger on it. Wait, okay, I got a dishwasher, I got a washer and dryer. I don't have to go to the river to wash my clothes, but why is it still so hard, right? Because there is so much of it, right? And there is this invisible expectations that, we just have to kind of do it all. And so I would encourage you to kind of just put down on paper what kind of things you are responsible for. What are the things you're doing in your daily life? Not just the physical, not just the emotional, not just the spiritual, right? Like, put it all down on paper, and then you kind of see, whoa, this is more than a full-time job, right? And so this is why a lot of moms are struggling, right? And so why is there so much pressure? A lot of times it does come from us. We have high goals, and I'm not here to encourage you to drop your goals. I'm not here to encourage you not to be a mom, right? I'm not here coming from that angle of say, okay, this has been hard on women. Let the woman go out and, pursue a career and these kind of things. I love motherhood, right? I think this is an important part of being a woman, right? And so I want to encourage you here. I want to find ways how we're going to do this better, right? Because clearly women are struggling these days, right? And so our families are falling apart because women are feeling so much pressure. How can they be a good wife? How can they please their husbands? How can they deal with their children? It's just a lot of stuff going on, and there is no curriculum, so to speak. There is no, knowledge not being passed down. And even if it has been passed down, a lot of times it's tainted by culture, by advice that's not appropriate, right? It doesn't serve us anymore in 2024, right? So we have to kind of come up with a better plan, right? And so the invisibility, just not being valued, this is hard. The unsaid expectations, that is hard, right? Pressure from the society to be perfect, right? Like the pressure we feel inside just to like get everything done. A lot of women feel like they cannot rest until everything is done. They feel like they cannot treat themselves with some self-care because, they have not completed. Motherhood is one of those things that's never completed, right? Like it's just an ongoing area of responsibility, right? So expectations, heavy mental load, having to think about all these things, even if you just want to leave a house for a bit, you have to think, okay, what about the kids? What about this? What about that, right? And so perfection, expectation, invisibility, those are all the kind of things that add to the pressure. Now, what can help moms? Okay, so we've identified the problems, right? I don't want it to be a negative kind of channel. I don't want it to be a negative video where we're just kind of complaining to each other. And sometimes you see that, when you're scrolling on YouTube or Instagram or whatever social media is, like there's this, oh, this kind of funny vibe, oh, mothers are struggling. Oh, it's so hard with the kids and whatever. But I want to kind of transform this experience. I want you to be able to enjoy being a mom. I want you to enjoy your family. I want the kids to grow up in a healthy environment where they see their mom being relaxed and happy, not just a miserable mess, right? And so how can we get there? Like what needs to happen? What needs to shift, right? And so not adding more. So I don't want you to add more to it. I teach a course in the community, right, to women. And often when people hear that I'm teaching something, they're like, okay, but what is this course about? Are you adding more, right? They're almost scared to take on a new thing. And I tell them, no, it's actually about reducing things. It's about, getting things off your to-do list. It's just kind of learning to say no, and it's learning to set boundaries, and it's learning to take care of yourself and communicate with those around you the burden of motherhood, right? Like to communicate to those around you that you need help, that you need support, right? And so what's the solution here? How do we enjoy motherhood? We enjoy it by getting support, right? I think most mothers don't feel supported. This is what we've seen in the comment section here in the last few videos. The mothers don't feel supported. Often they don't feel supported by their spouses, by their partners. They don't feel supported by their families. They don't feel supported by the society because nobody understands. There are no meaningful programs for mothers. They feel stuck, right? And so the lack of support is one of the biggest challenges mothers are facing these days, right? The lack of support. And the biggest difference where, the mothers I've met over the years that are thriving, and think about it in your life, how many mothers do you know that are enjoying their lives, that are full of energy, that are vibrant, that are, wow, like you look at them, you feel like, yeah, I want to be like that. How many mothers do you know like that? How many mothers, are a role model for you? How many older ladies have you met that are not cranky and grouchy and miserable and emotionally and physically spent, right? And so I want to kind of prevent that. I want to prevent the burnout. I want to prevent the misery, right? And I want us to brainstorm here, what kind of support do you need, right? Because often people around us claim that they're supporting us, but we don't feel supported, right? And this is why we feel invisible and we feel undervalued, because the support's not coming, right? So I want you to put in the comments section, in the below, what are the things you would like some support with? Let's open that conversation here. One of the biggest points that I advocate is community. Okay, we have lost the village. We don't have support around us. Most of us live in nuclear families or far away from our families, or even if we are within our families, maybe if you live nearby or if you live in a joint family, there is conflict, there is toxicity. So we don't have healthy support systems around us, right? We don't have people we can rely on. Often there is strings attached. Often there is codependency, often there's toxicity in these relationships, right? Then people kind of move into the hyper independent mode. I don't want any help, I'm just going to do everything on my own. So lack of support is a big one, right? And lack of communities. So my goal here is to create a community of mothers who want to do better, who want to thrive, not just survive, who are not happy with the status quo, who are wanting to do more, who are not just kind of Okay, let's just get done with this having kind of kids who are not resistant to the idea of having kids, who are not resistant to the idea of having a family. I often think of young girls, of young women. What would inspire them to want to be a mom when they all they see is miserable older ladies who are just cranky and complaining about their spouses and their kids, and there's nothing inspiring about that, right? So how can we change the tone? How can we get to the point where motherhood is something beautiful, where women are enjoying it, where women are full of energy, where women are thriving? How can we get there? And so what I'm providing here is the support through the community. We will have Mommy Mondays, inshallah, which will be a virtual community. So I'll put a link there somewhere below where you can join the wait list, as we get ready behind the scenes to open up the virtual community. But it will be a place where we can have these frank discussions, where we can vent and where we can, finally feel heard about the struggles we're facing, but also where we will have solutions, because it's not just enough, just to kind of like be blah, blah, blah. Those are the challenges, but I want us to figure out solutions on how to make motherhood more enjoyable. And so that starts with community and that starts with support. And I want you to kind of put in the comments, so for other people to see as well, what kind of support do you wish you had? Or what is the support you have and that you're really appreciating, right? And so let's have this conversation right here while we wait for Mommy Mondays to open up in January, inshallah. Join the wait list. And I'm looking forward. It will be a relatively small community. I think we're going to start off small, and it will be a little bit exclusive because I really want to give it that personal touch. I want to make sure all the ladies feel really comfortable. So we'll have a bit of an interview process as well. Once you're on the mailing list, you'll get an email with further details. Basically, there will be calls one-on-one with me just to kind of explain what Mommy Mondays is all about, and so you can see if this is the right fit for you. It will be a small virtual community, inshallah. I will still continue to post here on YouTube about the challenges mothers are facing, and we can continue to have the conversation in the comments. But for those of us who want to be a bit more private, and I host these things in my living room usually. I host the parenting support groups at my home, but this will be the virtual equivalent of my living room, right, where we can join together and support each other, inshallah. All right, so so much today. I support you virtually from here, and I wish you all the best, inshallah. May Allah make the journey of motherhood easy for you, and I'll see you in the next video, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.